our guest lecturer tonight runs global touring for a small company you may have heard of called Live Nation. Before that, he co-managed the rock duo The Score. He signed them to Republic Records. I think they won 2 gold records in the
platinum now, but who's counting really?
Platinum, okay, so they won 5 platinum records. The whole time he was overseeing Postmodern Jukebox's global touring slate. I think 250 shows a year. He helped build American High Records from the ground up. And most importantly, he's one of my good friends, and we're incredibly lucky to have you here tonight, Matt Barletta.
So nice to meet you all, guys.
So Matt, I'll just start us off because I really want tonight to be about you and being able to kind of talk a little bit about your experience and being open to any questions about the music industry and all that. But I'm gonna take it way back to the beginning and ask you, like, what was that moment where you knew that this was the path that you wanted to go down, and how did you go about, what was that moment where you took that first step in that direction?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm here because of music, because music and live music in particular moved me. And I'm going to date myself a little bit, but back before YouTube, I used to trade tapes with a band called Green Day, who I loved, and people would record live, videos, and I've got a tape of Toronto in '92, and I've got Calgary '87. We'd send them back and forth.
Matt, I'm sorry to interrupt, but can you repeat that band's name? Because I wanted to write it down. I couldn't catch it.
Green Day.
Is it like the color green and day? Like, I'm just joking. Yes, you are dating yourself, but it's the 30-year anniversary coming up of Green Day's Dookie.
100%. Yeah. I hope they do a tour. We'll see. But I remember watching a video and I saw the singer Billy Joe on stage, and I said, I want to do that. And I didn't really know what it meant. I just knew that I wanted to be a part of making people feel something. And so I went off on this journey, and I started bands, and I played music, and I wrote songs. And I ultimately got to a point where I realized I didn't want to be the guy on stage. I really liked creating that moment, that environment, that atmosphere for everyone to come in, enjoy, make money, which was a new thing I didn't think was possible in music. And so I've been on a lifelong pursuit of just chasing that feeling. How do I, selfishly, right? How do I just create more of those moments for myself? And then how do I incorporate that into my professional life? And that's one of the ways that led me to Jaron, who I was managing artists with. Jaron connected me with Jeremy. And that was one of the most exciting things to sort of bring it back about being involved in American High Records and working on the music in that, is because the whole goal was, how do we help these independent artists who don't have a platform get a platform and give someone that moment? I mean, before I knew what a sync was, I remember songs in movies that just hit me. There was a Semisonic song in 10 Things I Hate About You that wasn't a single, and it made me feel. And so, ever since I saw that, it was Green Day playing a festival in Toronto. And I remember sitting on my couch, I think I was 7, watching a VHS, and I just went, I want to do that. And my whole life has been in pursuit of chasing that feeling and moment.
That's awesome. I think that a lot of the people who are on the Zoom are at an age or a time in their lives when they're sort of in that fork in the road, and many are concerned, I would imagine, and everybody can disagree with me, but just through my experience, many are concerned about how do I go do a job, how do I pursue my passion, and still have some sort of a financial security, or how can I make a career out of this? How can I be 40 years old and remember Green Day and go to work every day and have red hair like Billy Joe? Like, how can I continue to be a punk rock man but still have a job that pays the rent and pays the mortgage?
my advice is you gotta follow that thing inside you that says, I gotta do this. Cause I think anything I've ever done that was solely financially motivated never really panned out to a degree. It works, but it works to a point. You're always focused on, let's get the bag, let's get paid. I think that I became a manager on the side, and I sort of did all these things because I had a boring desk job. I worked IT and tech support and kind of, whatever, all these sort of menial things. And that was my outlet. And it was because I was I didn't really give a shit about making money. And I think the fact that I did it out of the pure pursuit for art, it's what allowed me to find my community of people who believed in me and I believed in. And we created something special on the fringes. And anytime I've had success, we've always kind of, whether it's artists I'm managing, American High Records, we've always kind of created this thing that's outside over here that no one else is doing. And you make something that you love and is so important to you. And then people go, what's that cool thing happening over there? That seems like really authentic and fun, and they're doing it for the passion. And the one thing that I've learned, and I think has been a great success of mine, I see it with Jeremy and I see it with Jaren, your excitement for an idea can win people over like you would not believe. I've had artists, songs, clients, tours that people went, it's never going to happen, no one's going to be in it. And when you have that belief deep down, not, I'm going to go get the bag, I'm going to go get paid. No. So this kid, Des Rocks, I managed. I thought he was the second coming of Elvis, and he was so important. Nobody could tell me different. And I blew down so many doors, and I got him in so many places that I don't say he didn't deserve to be in, but I think was sort of ahead of where he was. Because I went into everyone, I said, I've got this idea, and I'm going to show you, and you're going to believe. And I think that in any creative field, you need to have an almost psychotic belief in what you're doing, that you go, it's okay if you don't get it. Jeremy, I know you've done all these crazy things. And so this agent or manager or producer, you have all these accolades. That's fine. I'm Matt Barletta, and I have great ideas too. And if you don't get it, I'm going to show you. And when you create that moment of like, hey, the train's moving and you're either getting on or I'm leaving without you, people kind of go, I want to see where that kid's going. And you start to write your own story because people want to be a part of that hype. And then Jim's excited, and then Jim's talking about it to his friends, and everyone gets on. And so I think when you approach it from something, such an authentic place of, hey, I have to do this because it means something to me, that's when people start to pay you for it. And it's the least expected thing in the world, in my experience.
That was beautiful and really well said. So you worked IT and tech stuff. Like, for how long did you do that?
I did that in college and after college for a couple of years, and I was promoting shows in clubs in Boston, and I spent my own money. I wasn't with Live Nation or whoever. I would go to work during the day, doing tech support. I'd, take my lunch break and talk to agents on the phone. Yeah, I'll send you that contract back. And show didn't sell. I'm going to the bank and I'm pulling, $1,000 out of my account and going, here, so-and-so band, here you go. I got to figure out how to make rent next month. But it was because I gave a shit and because I cared and I made time for those things. But it's really difficult. And I have to say, I don't, you guys look much younger than I am. And I think that I don't know that I could do that again now. Once you get set up and you're you've got your life and you're making your money and you've got your routines, it's a bit harder to kind of eat dirt. I moved to New York and I slept on my friend's floor. And, paid him a couple $100 in rent just so I could get to New York City, so I could get that job that would put me on the table. I lied about living in New Jersey so I could get an interview to get to the talent agency. And I think that when you're younger and you don't have kids or a wife or, whatever, it's you can sleep on the floor, you can eat ramen, you can go broke, you can beg your parents for money, all in pursuit of the dream. And don't miss an opportunity to do that, because you don't want to look back at my age, at Jeremy's age, and be working that job in IT and went, what if I just said, fuck it, and moved to New York? And I'll tell you, this is a perfect example. Grew up in Boston, lied about my address to get a job in New York, moved from New York to LA for a different job, wanted to do something different, moved from LA back to New York for another job that I thought was important. Connected with Jaren. Jaren's like, hey, I'm out in LA. I want you to come out to LA. Moved New York back to LA again. And it's always been about doing what it takes in pursuit of that dream. And now I'm at a place where somebody says, hey, move to New York. I like my life in LA. You know, I'm established, I'm comfortable, you know, but 21 years old, somebody says, drop everything and move to Nashville. Let's go see what Nashville's about, because you could wake up at 30 and still have a whole life ahead of you. And it's something people get scared of. What if I fail? We have to go back home. You know, Jared doesn't like this guy, but this guy, Gary V, that I like a lot. And he talks a lot about, you know, you could come in at 22 and eat shit for 8 years and get nowhere, and you're still 30 and you can start over with a fresh start, and you're still young and you still go for it. I think a lot of people think too old, I can't do it, I've passed my time. And I think if you feel you've got the excitement, energy, and dedication, go for it. You've got to throw yourself into the dream.
Pretty amazing. Matt, was there ever a moment that you thought you might fail, or you were not as confident or passionate about something that you had to sell?
Yeah, yeah, I mean, it's tough. I think that the one thing that's really helped me is just believing in myself. And I think that along the way, I've met people who have empowered me, like you have, and like you're doing with everyone here, and like Jaron and others have, to believe in myself, because until you've done something, you don't know you can do it. And so someone says, hey, can you direct a movie? Probably could. You might not have done it, and you might not do it the best way, and you'll stumble and you'll make mistakes, but you could do it. And I think a lot of times somebody goes, hey, can you do this? You go, yeah, I'm not sure. And that sort of self-belief, and you just go, yeah, I got it, and I'm going to figure it out. I mean, started out as a musician. I became a tour promoter. I became a booking agent, became a manager. And now I'm kind of back to tour promoter. And I still, who knows where I'll be in 5 years, 10 years. I love what I'm doing. But I think you've always got to be in that pursuit of reinventing yourself. And even at Live Nation, which I love, and I'm working on great tours, and it's fantastic. It's always this sense of what's next, and I think one of my strengths is just trying to not get too comfortable. And I think anytime you feel comfortable, you've got to find a way to challenge yourself. But yeah, plenty of times when I got fired from almost every job. I got hired at ICM in New York for this woman named Marsha Vlasic, who was a tyrant. Found out she was hiring for my position behind my back. I moved out to LA to take another job at an EDM talent agency. I worked there for a year. I went, oh, you got bought by a rock agency. I love rock music. Can I go work for them? They go, you don't like dance music? You're fucking fired. See you later. And so I've been met with these rejections along the way. And I think as long as you believe in yourself, don't take it personally, and continue on to the next opportunity, you'll always find that next thing that's right for you, even if it feels like and I remember getting fired from AM Only and talking with my boss at the moment. She was like, oh yeah, I know this feels awful, but this is going to be a turning point in your life. It's going to be the best thing that ever happened to you. I'm like, fuck you, you're still getting a paycheck, you have a job, I don't know what I'm doing. But everything always has a way of working out. If you follow your passion, you'll find those people who buy into the things that are important to you.
Was she right?
She was right.
She was right that it was the best thing that ever. So what's the lesson that we can share with everybody off of that?
Always listen to your elders, and always be willing to learn and accept that you might be wrong. You might not know what's best for you. Some of the best people in my life are the ones who've been honest with me and told me things about myself that I didn't want to hear. And they went, hey, I'm just going to plant this flag. These things keep happening. I know that you think X, Y, and Z. I'm not telling you to change anything. I'm just going to say, you keep doing this, and that keeps happening. Maybe you want to think about that. And I think that those tough moments are where you grow. I'm not the best at anything. I try to give all of the credit away because I couldn't do any of what I do without an amazing team of people. And I think the more you try to humble yourself, and manager friend of mine said, always be the least interesting person in the room. And I think there's something important about that. You always want to be learning from others. And you never want to feel like I'm the top dog, I know everything, everyone's got to listen to me. That's when you stop growing.
Is there you talked about those kind of X, Y, and Z's. Do you have, obviously you don't need to share, but are there things you could point to that were the X, Y, and Z's that people were pointing out that you kind of had to learn about yourself?
Yeah, it's funny, right? I feel like I got into a position where I knew I was really good at the mechanics of the job, moving info, getting places from A to B. It's like great at that. And I think there are some intangible personal skills, social skills that I kind of had to learn along the way. And I consider myself a good person and a personable guy. And I think, there's a couple artists that you want to do a good job. You want to be Johnny on the spot and respond to everything right away. After a while, people expect the way you treat them to be the norm. So the first couple times you get back to people right away, it's great. This guy's on it. Fourth, fifth, sixth time, you don't get back to them right away. Oh, this guy, he doesn't care. He doesn't pay attention. And so I learned that it's important to set expectations and set boundaries. And we want to be prompt and quick and move at the speed of business. But it's also important to set your own boundaries because people will push you as far as you can go. So yeah, it was an important lesson to learn where it's like, just because you're up at 5 a.m. and you get that email and you can move info from A to B, you don't want to set the precedence that, they call at 3 a.m. because they spilled a jug of milk on tour and they want to know how to replace it. And you don't pick up the phone, you're getting fired. You don't want to encourage that kind of behavior.
Got it. So, I was overlooking I took for granted, the idea that everyone on this Zoom knows what Live Nation is. Just because to me, it's it's every third email I get is from for some a Live Nation promotion. Can you take a moment and just tell everybody in case people don't know what Live Nation is?
Yeah, so Live Nation is the largest global promoter, and so we put on concert tours worldwide from everyone from The Weeknd, Imagine Dragons, Coldplay, down on to your 500 cap club bands, who are kind of just starting out. And what we do in global touring is we get a bit more involved in developing artists' careers. So once artists are kind of at a certain level where they're selling out, say, House of Blues or Fillmore, say 2,000 to 3,000 tickets a piece, will come on board as a global concert promoter with their manager, with their agent, and really just kind of bring some strategy into, because I think what a lot of people don't realize is that, all of your favorite artists, they're streaming, they're selling merch, they've got their records, their songs in film and TV. They make 95% of their revenue from being on the road. And so our job is, while you're on the road, how do we make sure we maximize all of the revenue? Do you want to do a VIP program? Do we notice that a lot of people are looking at, this is a controversial topic, but do we notice a lot of people are looking at seats, and are we able to charge more for that? Because there's a lot of demand similar to airlines. And so we really come in as a revenue generating and strategy partner for global touring artists who are ready to scale to the next level. But yeah, we put on concerts in clubs, venues, amphitheaters, arenas, stadiums worldwide.
And Matt, who's the competition for Live Nation? That was my son Bo coming in for me to sign his homework.
Our competition is a company called AEG Presents. They are Live Nation's publicly traded. AEG is privately held, and it's good to have healthy competition. We own a lot of the amphitheaters. So in upstate New York, it's what, St. Joseph's?
The St. Joe's Amphitheater, yeah.
So it's St. Joe's up there, or I think Bethel Woods is nearish you, maybe, or is that further south? But so we own a lot of those amphitheaters, and then AEG, on the other hand, owns and operates a lot of the arenas. So kind of between the both of us, we're able to make some pretty aggressive deals with artists, and we try to pay them handsomely to bring their shows to each city.
So can you go through what your responsibility is on kind of an everyday basis, like what your goal is when you show up to work in the morning and before you leave at night?
Yeah. It's best way it's been described to me is the position I'm in is air traffic control. So I'm right hand to the talent buyer, and so there's acquisition and execution, and I kind of sit in the middle of both of those things. So perfect example, right? We are working on Janet Jackson for 2024. So we'll get a call and they'll say, hey, Janet wants to go on tour next year. She wants to play amphitheater. She wants to do 30 dates and she wants to make X $100,000 a night. How do we make that work? And it's really my job to kind of go through and go, okay, here's what she sold last time. Here's what we can set ticket prices for. Here's what we can pay her based on that. And so we're building the deal with the artist team. We are routing the tour, ideally to venues that we own and operate. And then we're coordinating everything with our marketing team who's pushing out the ads you see on Facebook. We have somebody who's dedicated to setting up all the tickets. We have somebody who's dedicated to setting up our VIP program, and really just overseeing all those teams so that when we say, okay, we've got Janet Jackson announcing and going on sale next Monday, everything works in concert. So it's my job to kind of air traffic control everybody, make sure the marketing plane takes off, the ticketing plane takes off, so that when Monday at 10 a.m. when we announce the tour, everything is running smoothly. So I'm really the information hub that everyone kind of comes into and where I push info out from.
And are you doing most of that like sitting in front of your computer, or are you kind of like, all right, guys, Janet Jackson, everybody, meeting room 17, in 20 minutes?
Yeah, so it's a mix of everything, right? So at the beginning, it'll usually be emails, phone calls. Right before we go on sale, we'll have what we call like a war room, right? Where we can see in real time who's, how many people do we have looking at tickets, as things go on sale? Should we open up additional seats? Should we open up behind the stage? Should we keep some tickets off sale? So it usually starts with emails. We'll have some phone calls, some Zooms as we're kind of getting the tour out into the world to really make sure it started. And then after that, it translates into the real world. I'm going to rehearsals to make sure the show looks good and everything's set up from a production standpoint. I'm going to be at the first show. I'm going to check on it in the middle. We're going to go to the end. And it's really just having touch points at every kind of step along the way to just make sure, whether it's a ticketing thing, whether it's a lighting rig that needs to get adjusted, and now we have to move people from those seats because they're obstructed. It's really just being in the hot seat of everything with the tour. So it's phone, Zoom and email, Zoom and call, and in person.
Yeah, I'm going to open it up. I could keep asking questions, but I'd love to open it up if anybody has any questions about Live Nation or Matt's process or his job or his journey. Just raise your hand as I'll ask the next question that I'm going to go to. Do you like your job? Are you passionate about your job?
I love what I do. I think the corporate part of it is a bit interesting, right? Because I think that when you're more independent, you can kind of sort of do whatever you want, and with Live Nation, there's a series of approvals and flags and whatnot. But I love what I do. I've been doing this professionally for 15 years. And I still wake up every day. I'm first person in the office, often the last person to leave. And it's like the fact that I get to be involved with music every day is still a blessing. And the stresses and whatever happens, we're not saving lives over here, So it's like whenever people get all bent out of shape, we get to do this. I could be scrubbing toilets or serving fries or doing IT, and every other job is noble. I feel lucky to be able to do this. And I think you got to bring that energy to it, because if it's just a job, you make a lot more money in a lot of other places, in my opinion. I've never thought in a million years I'd be here. And if it ended tomorrow, I'd say, what a fucking incredible ride I had. Well, wasn't I lucky?
Well, when you're looking at, yourself playing the Green Day tape, how old are you? eight, 9 years old.
7, 8, yeah.
7, 8, 9 years old. And now even though you're on kind of the corporate side, you're still in the process of working with the biggest bands the biggest rock stars in the world. Do you have to like remind yourself every once in a while, like, yeah, I may have to be moving a light over here or like to move these tickets, but this is Bruce Springsteen, or this is this is Billy Joe.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm working on the Jonas Brothers tour, which has been amazing, and it's like it's one thing to kind of get the tour up and on sale, and it's selling tickets and go to Yankee Stadium and Dodger Stadium and do the hang, and it's all cool, And then I'm backstage at the after party. I'm like, there's Nick Jonas, like 2 feet from me, and it's still like, you act cool, but it's still incredible to be a part of that and to kind of facilitate all that, and it's you got to act like you've been there. But it doesn't get lost on me. That's why we do it, for that feeling and seeing the crowd light up. And every time in a stadium with 45,000 people singing along, it's like I feel something. I get the tingles. Worked on regional Mexican artists where I didn't understand a word, and just that community of people coming together. It's like I had a part of giving people that feeling that made me go, I want to do that. And to me, if I can affect one person's life, because I know how much music affected me, it's like that's amazing.
I'm not seeing I'm not seeing any questions, so I'll just keep going until anybody anybody has one. How
I got a question, Jeremy. If I can go.
Who is that?
It's Lena.
Oh, hey, Lena.
It's not working. Hi, Matt. Thank you for being here. This is awesome. My name's Lena. I'm a senior here at Syracuse. And I was just wondering if you could give any advice to me and maybe some other people here are seniors looking to enter into the music industry soon. What advice would you give yourself or us entering into the industry for our first full-time jobs?
Don't be afraid to fail. I think a lot of people think, I don't want to do this and get it wrong, but I think nobody's going to remember when you got it wrong by the time you've got it right. Nobody looks at Jeremy and goes, hey, remember that fucking stinker of a movie you made 15 years ago? What a piece of shit that was. They go, holy shit, Jeremy's made, Easy A and Murder Mystery 2, and he's got American High, and he's like, dude, Jeremy's the man, and I think a lot of people, we're all worried about our own zit, so to speak. And I think people are worried, how am I going to be perceived? What if I try this and get it wrong? Try everything. I think now is the time to try everything, find what you like, find what you don't like, but don't be afraid to fail. And don't be afraid to say, hey, I actually don't know. I think the best thing that I've learned is I know what I know, but I know what I don't know. And I think the worst thing I've seen that, sort of in this industry is people don't want to be wrong. And especially as somebody they deem as important, somebody asks them a question, hey, can you do this? And they just want to say yes and get it done. If you believe you can get it done, go for it. But if you don't know, the worst thing that you can do is say and try to go for it. There are plenty of times when I go to people far more senior than me and they go, hey, can you do this? I say, hey, look, I'm happy to do whatever you want. I've never done that before. Can we just walk through it together? Or can you tell me how to do it? Or can you tell me who I can call who can help me? And I think everyone's afraid of not knowing, but you don't know until you know. Don't be afraid to ask, and don't be afraid to get it wrong. And I think people can see your intentions. Everyone has a bad day. Everyone gets things wrong. But if you can go, hey, here's why I did that. Here's why it made sense. You're a good person. You have good intentions. People go, okay, cool. You just a little to the left next time, have a conversation with me and keep moving. And I think just taking that in stride, being willing to accept comments and being willing to say, hey, I don't know, would be my advice.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Matt, let me ask you a follow-up question to the Lena question. Because that is incredible advice. And I'm seeing a pattern of a lot of for those of you who have taken any of these workshops before, where we're speaking to incredibly successful people, everyone is saying no. Just don't be afraid to say, I don't know, but I'll figure this out. Everyone it seems to be kind of a repeated theme. I'm going to just ask a question just to follow up on Lena's. If there was a job, like if I'm graduating, if I'm a senior and I want to get into the music industry, where should I send my resume right now? Like, what should be my first job that I should send my resume?
It's a great question.
Thank you. I'm out. Just kidding.
No, I mean it's I don't really know. Are we talking like job or internship?
I don't know. I think people probably want to get paid, right, Lena? You're talking job. I'm just trying to, yeah.
Job
I'm trying
for
to Matt
sure.
explain.
Yeah,
Job definitely.
As much as I hate to say it, I think even, and maybe especially at my level, I think if you have a connection to somebody that's always helpful. It's easy to get lost in a sea of resumes. My best advice is go after something that you're passionate about, and don't be afraid to find that person. If you really give a shit, find that person, write a personal email. People go, yeah, they'll never read it. Great. Well, let them not read it and move on. But I think you'll find a lot of times people go, oh, this person actually really wants to work for my company. They care. They know a lot. This is important to them. I want to hire the person that took the time to reach out and tell me, hey, I give a shit. This matters to me. It's important in my life. What you've built is important. I want to be a part of it. I think it's very easy to look at a resume in a pile and go, yeah, Lena looks nice. Let's look at something else. I mean, I can tell you as a straight white guy, like I don't stick out. They put me over to the side and they go, yeah, we're not going to hire you. We're going to look for a woman, a minority, and they absolutely should be. And I think once you make that personal connection, people always want to hire the right person for the job, and they're always going to judge based off of optics or what they think your resume is. But for me, that's been my guiding light. The way that I broke the score is so funny. They had this song, sent it to a couple people, and a friend said, oh, that sounds like it should be in a Starbucks. And I went, I have no idea how to get the song in Starbucks. Googling around, who's the CEO of Starbucks? Howard Schultz. Me and my co-manager were like, I'm gonna send Howard Schultz an email. Fired off from the abyss, close the laptop. 2 days later, we get an email from the CMO. He goes, I have no idea how you got in touch with Howard Schultz, but he forwarded me your email and he wants to use the song in our stores. So send me the song. And he was so annoyed, but we were able to make a personal connection. We made a plea and we were able to kind of appeal to his senses. He didn't reply to us, but he forwarded along and people reached out. And I think never being afraid to make that reach out and say, hey, this is important to me. And here's why I think it should be important to you too. That sets you apart from the crowd.
It's a really good point. I mean, we're at an age now where anyone could really get in touch with anybody. And a lot of people, no matter how famous they are often bored, and they are sitting on their toilet for at least 6 to 12 minutes a day. So like, and the right email or the right DM at the right time with the right phrasing could make all the difference. People, I mean, I get so many emails and so many DMs, and I'd say I like, I don't know if I read all of them, but I'll glance at pretty much everything that I get eventually. And if there's like a connection or somebody like saw something a little bit obscure that I worked on, or if they like grab my attention in a way, like, so my aunt knows your sister's cousin's uncle, so and so. Like I'll forward the email to Andy or the office, and I'll just like, just find a time to set up a Zoom with this person, and then it'll be like 2 months later, I'll completely forget who it was and why I'm like, why am I meeting with this person? But often it'll get through. It'll get through. People read these things, so take a shot. Is there did that answer your question, Lena?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think right now I'm kind of in that space where it's like I can either do the LinkedIn applications and like never hear back, or I can like find alternative routes, and like that's what I'm trying to do right now, to like find that.
Yeah, I think the one thing that if I could go back and tell my younger self is build those relationships, build those social connections. I think that I always firmly believe that it was all on meritocracy, and the person who could do the work the best would break through. And you hit a point where you are doing the best work, but people want to help out their friends. And like, why wouldn't they? I want to produce tours with my friends who are managing, and I want to work with my other friends who are doing whatever. And so if you can get a leg up, a connection in, build a relationship, that's something that I didn't put enough value into. And I hate the term networking and networking events, but if you can get connected to someone, even if you just go, get connected to somebody and just ask for advice, and to build that. And then, somebody's like, hey, I'm looking to hire a new person in marketing or whatever it is you want to be. They go, oh shit, I just met with this girl, Lena, let me connect you guys. And I just think being at top of people's mind, being likable, which you all seem to be, and just building those connections and staying up to date with people. Someone's always I'm sure Jeremy can attest to this. Hey, Gene, I'm looking for somebody for this. Do you know anyone? And I don't have a Rolodex I go through. I just go, oh shit, I talked to Jim last week. You know what? You should know Jim. Let me put you on an email. So I think just building those relationships is really going to help you, even if they connect you to the next person, who connects you to the next person, who connects you to the next person, who connects you to the next person. And that's where it comes together. That's something that I think is super valuable, because to your point, you can just click that button on LinkedIn all day long and be applicant number 16,451 out of 40,000. Or you can find a way to sort of break through, and that's the identifier, right? How do you set yourself out from the pack?
Lena, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go for
What
it.
is it that you want to do?
Right now, I'm currently a television, radio, and film major. And I think going through that process these past 4 years, I've kind of realized I don't necessarily want to do movies and TV. And I actually would rather do like sort of the video production in the music space. So like digital media, music video, long form, short form video, but music specific. So also I was wondering, like, what positions do you see, whether it be PR or something in the music industry, like what do those positions actually look like for like video production?
So do you like kind of I guess what part of video production excites you? Like, is there a certain aspect of it?
I would say like creative / like producing. Like I have a music video production like business on campus, and I'm more of like the producer, creative director role.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, and I think Jeremy can speak to this a good bit from the film side, but I think the music, well, it's interesting, I guess, because on the music side, music videos feel less prevalent these days. When I was managing artists, it was like, we'd go, let's do a music video. And then the label would always go, well, what are we going to do with the video? And how are we're going to have this 3.5 minute piece of whatever, and nobody's going to watch it. We need short form content. But I think there's always a need of those great creatives. I think it's always easier to start at a company and work your way up as kind of, a helper, right? So if you can connect with one of those producers, executive producers, creative directors, and sort of be their right hand, you learn from them, you learn kind of how they do it, and get yourself in. But yeah, there's a lot of creative agencies these days, because the record labels used to do a lot of creative for the artists. They've now stopped really doing that, so they'll outsource them. So they'll go to, I used to represent a company called Tension Division, who does creative direction for 21 Pilots and Jelly Roll and Lauren Daigle and a bunch of others. And so, Republic Records or whoever would call them and say, hey, we're going to do the next, or Atlantic, we're going to do the next 21 Pilots campaign. We have $250,000, will you come in and kind of help us design that? And then they would kind of set the creative, and then they'll go, okay, so we need 6 music videos. So we need somebody who's going to do that. Okay, Lena's got a production company. We're going to work with her. She's going to come up with it. And I would encourage you to continue with your own production. I think that's amazing. I think a lot of people think, oh, I've got to work for someone else. Like when I started managing bands, I didn't have any credentials. Like I was just like, boom, I was a manager. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was, and I did it. And I was a manager because I said I was a manager, the same way that you're a creative director and a producer, because you say you're a creative director and a producer and a business owner. And I think leveraging that to get into, and I think I always like to work backwards, right? So if you think 10 years ahead, where would I like to be? Work backwards, Tarantino it, as they say. If you want to work for X, Y, and Z company and you want to be the chief creative director, do a deep dive into that company, see who's been there, how did they ascend the ranks, and check other companies, and then work your way back. What's step one? It might be being an intern getting coffee, but if that's the company that's you believe is where you need to be and is the next step for you, maybe that is what you want to do. But yeah, I always like to say start from the end and work backwards to where you want to be, because you can design your path.
Design your path. I love it. Lena, I was gonna say this, find what do you want to do, and just do it. And I was my son came in to say goodnight. He said, "Oh, is this one of the AI classes?" And I said, "No, this is a music class." He goes, "Boring," and he went to and he left and went to sleep. But it's Matt's just echoed exactly what I was thinking in my head is just do it, just start doing it, and that's how people will come to you and ask for hey Bob, people will come to you and you'll be networking while you're doing what you're trying to do.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's awesome advice. Thank you so much. Do you one more question?
Please.
What do you see in your own personal experience in like social media? Because I know that's a whole big thing and we could go on about that. But like specifically me, I'm like you said, music videos are kind of on the decline a little bit. And like as a young individual who uses social media all the time, I think that that's like the future of all of this. But what about you?
It is, and I think that everyone's going to tell you this is how we've always done it, and this is how we're going to do it, and that's how we're going to do it until you guys come in and you say, no, we're not. I've got a new way. I know acts are breaking on TikTok. Nobody's making videos, maybe reels. When you do it and you do it successfully, everybody's gonna come to you. And I think it's identifying that white space of going, where is everyone not? Find the need, fill it, or create it, right? And so I think everyone's going to tell you we don't need that. Nobody's going to pay for short form content. The second that you're behind one viral video and then you do it again, you do it again, and you do it again, you're the person with the plan. You're the person who has the idea, and your phone's going to be ringing off the hook. Until you do it successfully, everyone's going to, you don't know what you're talking about. It's wrong. Everyone's tried short form content. Nobody's done it. Atlantic spent millions of dollars on it. We can't engineer any of this. Like, sure, kid, go nuts. Don't listen to anyone. Everyone's going to tell you, nobody wants to be first and wrong. And so everyone's going to go with what's working. You know what's working. And if you've got that feeling, chase it down. Even if only to go, okay, I tried this. And I always say, get the no. That's why I'll reach out to some of these, I used to reach out to some of these CEOs, because fuck it, the worst that could happen is they ignore my email. They say, no, I'm not interested. Great. Artists came back and they said, I had an artist who he was like, I want to write the Bond theme. I'm like, okay. So I tracked down Barbara Broccoli and reached out and this whole thing, and absolutely not, we don't work with independent artists. When they were established A-level artists, and I go, cool. We reached out. Everyone said it couldn't happen. We got the no. On a similar front, though, he said, I want to open for the Rolling Stones. Okay, cool. Let me run down this fool's errand. Called the team that handled Rolling Stones I used to work with. Hey, I have this artist. I really believe in them, blah, blah, blah. Lo and behold, they sent somebody out to a show. They liked what they saw. We got the call to open for the Rolling Stones. Everyone said, you're an idiot. That's never going to happen. This kid can't even sell 200 tickets. Why are the fucking Rolling Stones taking him out? You're a moron. And I said, fine, just get me the no, and I will leave you alone. And I think just being persistent to a point and being willing to say, okay, I'm just going to get the no and move on. I think you'll be surprised at how people go, I'm going to give you a shot.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Anybody else have a question?
What's
Yes,
up, CJ?
CJ.
I also got a question too. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
We got you.
Awesome, cool. First of all, I mean, just like you all said, like, thank you so much for having this. This is just a cool, like workshop to know about the music industry coming from a film and television major. But like, kind of what we were just sort of talking about. I'm gonna phrase this wrong probably, but like all the arts, especially now, are like extremely competitive, and it can really feel like every man for himself. And especially during college and like recent graduates, like, do you ever find it like having the mindset of like you're in a race against everyone else for all these positions, like 50 people, some of which are your friends, trying to get like one job or one internship? Like, how do you go about like navigating both like your connections, your networking, but also like trying to keep off like feeling like it's a race, if that makes sense at all?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, like framing your mental state is huge. And I mean, we have wins and losses every day. And as cool as it is to work at Live Nation and work with Jonas Brothers or Janet Jackson or Mariah Carey or whoever the hot artist of the moment is, you've got your days where you're like, I don't really like, I can really do this. Like, what is going on? Why am I kind of going through this? I think you've just gotta believe that everything happens for a reason. And if you didn't get a job, it doesn't necessarily mean anything about you. It just might mean like it wasn't meant for you, it wasn't the right fit. And be willing to accept that maybe the thing that you thought you really wanted to do, that you were destined for, isn't the thing where you're going to end up. And I'm not saying don't take that failure personally and kind of crawl into a hole and change directions. But I was sure I was going to be a booking agent. I was like, this is the only thing I want to do. I love rock and metal bands. There's this one specific agent who booked he had a roster full of all these bands that I loved. And I interviewed for him and I thought I knocked it out of the park and so amazing. And he passed on me. And I went back after and I'm like, hey, like I just, I really love all the artists that you're working with. And like what was it? And and he basically, I forget how he phrased it, but he basically nicely was like, yeah, I kind of thought you came off a little too thirsty and just whatever, not the fit for me. And it really hurt deep down. But I think it's also a reflection of like, yeah, anybody who's not going to take your excitement and passion for what you do as a positive thing, like that's not my guy. And later on, I found people who really empowered me without the job that I had before this in management, working for mine and Jeremy's close friend, Jaron, working with him and him doing things a different way and teaching me that you don't have to have this angry attitude and everything doesn't have to be militant and crazy, and you can do things with grace and care and love and sort of, you don't have to create an emergency around everything. It's like all those things jobs I thought I was upset that I didn't get. This was the one that made all of the difference. And I've said this to him before. He was such an amazing mentor. I said, I would not in a million years be able to do what I do now and be able to deal with the caliber of people I do now without having had that experience. I would be a different person. I would approach things differently. And so I think don't take any of those things personally. When you find that thing that's right, it's really going to be a game changer. Wait for your pitch and just be willing to accept the right thing coming into your life, and don't take any of those rejections as I'm not good enough. It just means wasn't the right fit, and maybe it's not the thing that you're meant to do today, but it might be the thing that you're meant to do down the road, and the thing that you do today will set you up for that.
That was pretty awesome. I would just add, if you're entering kind of this world of the arts, or entering a world where your friends, you have people in your circles like competing for a specific job or a specific goal, I would just encourage you to embrace all of them and work with all of the people you love doing what it is you love, and don't compete with them, because circles rise. And if you have a great group of friends or great group of people you work with, and you're all talented, you're all great people, you might not get your break, this year, but somebody else might, and then you might get your break in a couple of years. I had such a great. I worked at. I was an assistant at CAA. I was in the mailroom. I had so many great writer friends. I had so many people I went to college with who I loved, and I never, for me, I never had a moment of like I never had a moment of I'm competing with you. It was always like, how could we? I admire you, what you do, and I love how talented you are at this. How can we all help each other? How can we work together on projects? And I've seen my circle of friends, people who struggled for 15, 20 years, knocked on the door. Now they're like the biggest showrunners in Hollywood. And it's there's so many ups and downs in this business. And starting out, you're kind of at a neutral. You're not even at an up or a down. You have your full journey ahead of you. That just the idea of competing or racing is I would encourage you not to think that way. But if somebody doesn't hire you or does something to offend you, you put them on the list. You work harder and you come back and you kick their ass.
100%. And yeah, I agree. I got into music. I used to play hockey, and I got into music because I liked that I could be a fan of Green Day and Blink-182, and they weren't competing teams. I could like them both. And I think that you'll find that there's classes of people. There are people that I came up with when I was an independent musician, an independent promoter, who are now, big time agents and managers and, whatever. And so to Jeremy's point, like, you're all going to rise together. And you never know which one of your friends is going to get that job, and then they're going to excel and be a superstar, and they're going to go, hey, we need more people. CJ, what are you doing? I want you on my team, and vice versa. And so I think you're going to find those class of people, and you should root for them. And I don't, AEG and Live Nation are competitors. If I lose a tour to somebody at AEG, that's incredible. Good for them. It means they were the right person for the job, and the artist won. Maybe we'll get it on the next time, but it's not personal, and all of us succeeding is going to allow all of us to continue to succeed. I would cheer them on, and I would ask them for advice, because I don't know that anyone has it figured out how to get a job. How do you land it? I think you just got to grind and figure it out and wait for the right. Sometimes it's timing. Sometimes people leaving, the right opportunities. But yeah, bring those people into your circle, because now they've got that job that you want, and they've got those people's ears, and they can tell them how great CJ and Connor and Christina and Julia, how great you guys are. And then when they go, shit, Jimmy just quit, we need somebody. And you go, I have 3 people who are incredible. You should talk to all.
Did Julie get married? Sorry, making a music reference there. Are you hiring? Can Lena send you her resume? Is what she was gonna ask. I get 10%, Lena. I get 10%.
Check the Live Nation Jobs website. I'm always happy to, if there's something open. And Jeremy, feel free to give them my email and contact info. If you guys have any follow-up questions, whatever, I'm here. If there's something open, reach out, and I'm always happy to say, hey, had a good chat. This is somebody you should consider. Live Nation is great about posting all their openings. Conversely, though, if you say, hey, I love concerts and I want to be in PR at Live Nation, here's my resume and cover letter. I'm happy to try to help get you connected to the right people, so they can know that there's somebody who's really passionate who wants to be a part of our team, because that's always a big, hey, we have somebody who really wants to do this. Great. We have 5 people who couldn't wait to punch the clock and leave, so we could always use one more person who wants to be here.
Matt, I have a question. So if you were managing American High Records, right, and you know exactly what American High Records is, and American High is now, since you're not doing it anymore, we've started a digital channel, and American High Shorts is now, we're over 1 million followers.
You're killing it, by the way. That's amazing. So smart.
It's been pretty, it was all Will and Excel. I didn't even understand, I didn't know what TikTok was. But my question is, coming back to Lena's question, if we were to take, if we wanted to do some sort of American High Records release of something through the TikTok, through our social channels, and potentially produce a music video or short form content, what would your advice be to me?
I would say focus on TikTok and focus on a lot of short form content. I've got a buddy in a rock band they're starting to gain some momentum, and they're like, how do we promote ourselves? How do we get ourselves out there? And I think that nobody really knows how to crack the algorithm on TikTok. I think the people who are successful are the ones that just don't give up. For better or worse, it's TikTok, and to a lesser degree, Reels are probably the biggest promotional tools. But things still go viral on TikTok. It broke that guy, Oliver Anthony. Not a huge fan of his music, but it's still breaking artists. It's breaking talent. It broke Matt Rife. So I think it's, and Lena, this goes back to what we were talking about. Not that there's got to be a formula to it, but I think it's just a bunch of people throwing shit against the wall. There's some science to it, and I don't know what it is, but there's some science to it. And I think the more you dedicate yourself to it, the more you figure out how to get those things that connect. And if you can figure out how to get something to connect on TikTok with any sort of consistency, even loosely, I mean, that's what everyone wants. You're going to have all the labels, all, marketing for, whatever you move. Oh, we're putting a new movie on Hulu. We want to go viral. Cool. Lena's got this company that's crushing it. I would say focus on social, throw as much as you can against the wall, because if nobody sees it, nobody knows it. Nobody knows that no one saw it. And it's funny. It's like we always used to talk about, my old band toured with this other band. There's this terrible tour. We played to like 10 people a night. Nobody showed up. And the other band's always like tweeting back when Twitter was huge, like sold out show, so amazing. Like, thank you all for coming. And I'm like, you guys are fucking like nobody showed up. And they went, yeah, exactly. So nobody knows that nobody showed up, And so it was like, it's just kind of always this, if nobody sees it, no one knows that no one saw it. And to the point where nobody's paying attention to your zit, they're always worried about their own. They're going to forget the 50 times you got it wrong, the one time that you get it right. And I think that's the important part. And that comes back to not being afraid to fail and just, I'm going to go for this. This is something that's breaking artists. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm just going to start. And I think that's the most important thing. You start. And to what you guys have built, I saw the American High Shorts thing. I'm like, holy shit. Like, you guys are killing it. It popped up in a quick time, sort of seemingly out of nowhere. It was this concept that you guys went, cool, we want to build the brand. Now you have something that's real. Now you have a real social platform. And when Hulu's coming to you and going, hey, we got to promote our movies, you go, yeah, we have over 1 million followers across both platforms or whatever. Yeah, we can get the word out too. We don't need to rely on you. We've got our own promotional vehicle. And when you're able to produce all that stuff yourself, you don't need to rely on anyone else. You really can kind of control your destiny a bit better.
Well, this was incredible. This was an incredible hour, Matt. It was amazing, and I'm incredibly grateful that you gave your time. If anyone has any questions for Matt, I'm sure you could follow him at what's your social handle?
At Mathew Barletta, Mathew with 1 T.
At Mathew Barletta. DM him. He'll read it when he's on the toilet. Guys, thank you for coming tonight. Matt, thanks again. You're awesome. Just incredibly motivating and inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you all for listening. Best of luck, and please follow, DM, whatever. If I can help, I would absolutely love to. And best of luck to all of you in the future.